Hello, everybody. I am here with my partner and good friend, James Proctor. And then we got James Proctor's illegitimate brother at the bottom, Tom Lavecchia. And his uh, underneath this video, when you're done, his links there. A very good show. Please go over there and join his show. It's
Thank you.
very interesting stuff and very cleverly done.
Thank you.
And as for James, you guys know James. And
Hmm.
just so you guys know what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about two people that came into this genre and took it over. But we're also going to talk about how much everything's changed in a year. And we're going to go through it. We're going to give our perspective. We're going to show some video clips, people. We're going to just talk about things and where we're going. We're about to hit 20,000 views here. Our show's numbers we can put up against anybody except for Michael Francis and Sammy Gravano. Just so people know that that's where we're at that level, and that's thank you all. Okay, and Tom is the one that taught me how to. I used to give him a hard time about doing the shorts, and so we're putting up shorts. People love it. We get a lot of people coming in and watching those. But anyway, Tom, how much have things changed since you've been here in this genre?
Uh, did a full 180. Changed completely the shows, the people. There weren't many shows that dropped off. Maybe one or two in terms of they stopped doing content, but in terms of the attention, it shifted towards, and we're going to talk about them. Kind of two shows in particular.
Yeah.
So I think for the genre as a whole, whether you stand for you're against informants or you're informants are okay, it's a form of entertainment. Wherever you land, there's more stuff and like the attention buffet for you, and I think it's a really good thing.
And one thing I've learned, and James, I'll let you come in right after I say this, please.
Hmm.
Uh, One thing that I've learned is that when I came in here, I was under the assumption that you needed the informants to do well. When this show pulled away from the informants, we did even better. So that was just a myth. It's not
Yeah.
the who you have on; it's the quality of your show that people like.
Lee,
And
real quick,
it's
I want to jump in real quick on that. So I have interviewed informants. Would I do it again or do it on a case by case basis? Has to be kind of within the arc of the show and relevant. But I have to say that, for example, I've also kind of veered off into other like content business, other kind of tangential mob stuff, and even non informants like Louis Ferranti, Salvorina. I was on Angel's show, and that actually benefited my show by being on. So, but believe it or not, by informants aren't necessarily necessary like they were maybe a year ago or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
right. And and that's what we're going to talk about because Mikey Scars has shown what type of informant people actually like.
Yeah.
Okay, not the informant coming in here crying and blaming everybody for what happened in their life. And
What? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no, you go right ahead.
No, so I said this from the beginning, and I'm gonna get pushed back on, and this is fine.
So
So
what?
everybody has their belief system, and I value the fact that you have your belief system and respect it. Just respect the fact that I have mine. Even if you disagree, we're all allowed to opinion. That's why we're in America, the greatest country in the world. Now, I still believe to this day there is a spectrum of informants. There's a spectrum. On the right, you have people that put a lot of people away, that did a lot of unscrupulous things, and were maybe government kind of looked the other way in a lot of stuff. And then you kind of go to the other side where maybe they still put a lot of people away, but are on maybe YouTube per se, but handle their content a lot different. They're not going after revenge or not trying to hurt other people. And believe it or not, there's a lot of people from that life that watch these shows because of that. And I think Mikey Scars is a good example of that.
Yeah. Okay. And James, what do you think?
Yeah. So, I think the whole here's my opinion on the informants question. So, for 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 us, I think what's critical is to understand your audience, and
Yeah.
so we need to understand, that in the whole spectrum of things, the two biggest shows in the genre are, and we're not talking about the growth, but just talking about just subscribers is Michael Francis and Sammy Gravano, who are informants. But that doesn't mean that, like for us being the Leak Code 3 podcast with James Proctor, we don't that's not who our audience is. And so when we went the direction of informants coming on, it just didn't resonate with our audience.
Yeah.
And and it just, and we're really tied for, I think it's a positive, but I would say of any of the content creators, we're tied, to you, of course, but also Angel Gotti. I think that's where we're at. So, we have a lot of people from her side that
Yeah.
watch us. So I just think that, it just depends on who your audience is. I'm not saying that you can't be successful with informants, but what we have been able to prove is that you don't have to have informants and be
Correct.
successful.
And guys, I'm gonna put when we came in here 2 years ago, there were three guys that had major impact in this genre, and they faded. And I'm gonna show you these three guys: John A. Light, Jimmy Calandra, and Gene Barillo. Gene Barillo got in trouble with the law. It really put him back. Gene Barillo, despite the fact whether you like him or not, he is a subscriber magnet, but he is his own worst enemy. And Gene will probably admit that himself. Then you had John A. Light, who has come on here in the Gotti's name, and he's basically lived off the Gotti name to become something. And then you got Jimmy Calandra, who totally blew up. He blew up his show because when we came in here, we looked up to Jimmy Calandra because he was the guy. He was the new guy getting everybody. And then he made the mistake of leaving his territory and playing around with all these little channels. And it cost him. It cost him dearly because those little channels started attacking him and finding lies out about him. And it really affected him. Tom, what would you like to say on that?
Well, you brought up three individuals. You want me to start with Jimmy or?
Yeah, Jimmy is the one to start with first because he's the one that self-destructed the most.
Well, I will say this. I'm going to kind of give you the media perception of things, and
as long as you don't beat around the bush with it, Tom.
No. I'm just I know like my area of strength, and I don't want to comment on things that I'm not as strong on. So, as a media guy, if you will, as a marketing guy, I think Jimmy had a really good opportunity to kind of encapsulate Bensonhurst, Bay Ridge, Gravesend in the 90s, farm team. And I think one of his strengths was he didn't kind of know what he was doing. So like in terms of like kind of an ex kind of street guy, did really well in the YouTube front where, like he just was a bull, like came out, here's what I'm doing, that kind of stuff. What I think hurt him was, and I was part of a show with a former informant, there's a lot of stuff that the RJs, the Felixes, the little Snuffs, the James Proctors do to a show that's like an iceberg. You see a little bit of it, but most of it is on the back end. I don't believe Jimmy had that. So he didn't really have like the media training, didn't have like the back end, didn't adopt shorts and that kind of stuff. So like to me, I look at like not just the symptoms, but the root cause, right? So you get negative press, right? Or you get maybe a show you did and it kind of tanks you. When you have like a team behind you or somebody who's more marketing or media savvy, they know how to deal with crisis management per se, right? When I was with John Panisi, he had a front page article in print on the New York Post, and it did nothing to negatively or disparately impact our show. Why? Because we, like James said, we knew our audience, we catered to our audience, we had a little bit of a moat around us, and it protected the show. I don't think Jimmy had that because he didn't have maybe the right partnership or back end. It's not a political answer. I just think it's the truth.
No.
I agree.
Okay, but and here's where I disagree with you, James. Did you know your face ain't showing no more?
Yeah, there's there's something wrong with my battery, but it's fine.
Okay, so what I like to say about that is I look at it totally different. I think that he messed around with all these little channels and it destroyed him. He went and messed around with Convict Inc. and Convict Inc. destroyed him. He got involved in these fights that he was at that time he was well above 20,000 people. He didn't need to get involved in those fights.
Yep.
He
Yeah,
would attack people for no reason. He would be in chat rooms attacking people. It
yeah.
made no sense.
Well,
Well,
I think it was his anger that I think he had an anger problem, and and I agree with Tom as well. Let's say if he had, uh, like most celebrities, they have publicists, right? They have people that manage your reputation.
yeah.
You have even firms, reputation management firms, and so, the thing was, you're right. He shouldn't have been going into these smaller shows and fighting with people, and then he was a different way on his own show. That just really hurt his reputation. And then he lost credibility when with the photo with him and Tommy Karate, and that one photo really did a lot of damage, and he didn't have any way to get around that.
But that goes back to my point where, and to buttress what James is saying, is if he had kind of on his team a publicist or a co-host or something, like they probably would have said to him, "Hey, don't go on these shows." So I'm actually today's my birthday. I'm smoking.
Yeah, happy
Happy birthday, by the
birthday.
way.
Thank you. I'm
I'm sorry.
smoking a T52 cigar, which is my favorite cigar on the planet. It's from Liga Privada. Right now, the reason why I bring this up is that the mastermind behind the cigar was a guy named Steve Saka. He worked for them. He brought the brand up. He got burnt out, started his own company called Dunbarton Cigars. I had him on my podcast, Steve Saka. Check it out. And he said one of the things that really resonated with me. He goes, I punch up, I don't punch down. Right. So by punching up, you're going after the bigger people and you get bigger spoils. Where you kind of said exactly, I think in Jimmy's standpoint, he may have punched down, and I think that might have hurt him.
Very good point. And so we're going to move past these. We're not here to bash them.
Yeah.
We're just here to give our opinion about
Yeah.
those three guys. Okay, we all know about John A. Light, and we know what Gene. Gene wound up going back to jail quite a bit. So of course you can't work your show when you're doing that. So moving
Right.
on from them guys, you have two other guys now. You got Sammy Gravano, who a big time guy. I mean, this is a guy. This is the underboss to John Gotti. So we cannot deny that. And then you had Michael Francis, two guys that basically went unchecked and said whatever they wanted to say, and they were never called on it. And
Right.
when the next group of guys came in and started calling them out on it, it did hurt them because they started fighting back. What's your opinion on that, Tom?
Yeah. So again, kind of what happened with Jimmy, Sammy kind of was punching down, right? I think what happened was Sammy had his production team, he had his publicists, he had his back end, he had the infrastructure. They probably were fishing. The big money in this is not YouTube, right? Don't get me wrong. It's $20,000 a month, a lot. It's a lot of money.
Yep.
When the top 3% of earners, if you're in the world, if you're grossing 20,000 a month. However, you got to pay, donut 3,000. You got to pay your partner who probably said, "Listen, I'm going to front $50,000 in production costs. I got to take 50-50 with you till I get paid back," and then goes in your favor, right? So now you got to pay your production partner. You got to pay rent. So maybe you're making 20,000-30,000 a month, but netting 5,000 or 6,000 a month. So the real money on this is not even like the books per se. It's the options for the movie, the Netflix, the Hulu, and that's where the big money
Yep.
is. In my just personal opinion, I never asked Karen this, I never asked Sammy this, but I personally think that he was maybe banking on that hockey stick of getting the social proof by having the 500,000 subs and then getting picked up by a big movie house. So once he lost that big production guy and then kind of went either in-house or picked up a new partner, that's when he started going down. And what did he do? He started punching down. And then like media is very interesting. Media, like this is it's not a speedboat. It's more like a big tanker. So when you
Right.
run the wrong course, you can't just turn. You have to and after a while you could turn it around. And he just doesn't have the media savvy. And like you said, maybe people called him out on stuff, or he didn't address certain things. And as a whole, he kind of, relatively speaking, hurt his brand. I know, people don't want to hear that he's a brand, but essentially he is at this point.
So Tom, he had our thing that people loved, and he walked away from it, and he went to a totally different spot. Makes no sense. He originally had a very good guy leading the way, and then now he has a bunch of young girls around him that know nothing about the life. Do you think that affected him a lot too?
Yeah. So you can kind of have, essentially, two types of shows. One is episodic, right? Season 1, stories 1 through 10 released, maybe dabble for a live, right? But it's episodic. I feel this is just my personal opinion. I think he benefits by having episodes. I think Jimmy Calandra should have had season 1, the upstart, season 2, the arc, build the Galino, 3 post Galino, 4 my life out of it, right? I think Jimmy could have benefited from having episodes. Angel's kind of doing that now with Patreon. I think Angel benefits from having episodes, like kind of, and you're working with her on that on the Patreon, which is kind of a form of that. So I'm glad that Angel's doing that. So there's just certain people that benefit from the episodes. Then you kind of got the live streamers, which is a little different muscle.
I don't even want to talk about that.
No. I'm talking in terms of Sammy. Sammy tried to kind of go to be the streaming guy. He's not good on the fly. He's a little long in the tooth, respectfully. And then number 3, I think it was kind of a little bit of a money grab because he probably made gross 500 one, and then now he's chasing. So whenever you have a show, and James, there's 2 parts. One, you have to cater to your audience, but number 2, you also have to know yourself. I'm just not a great live guy. Like you think I would be. I would be a good debater. Hopefully somewhat intelligent. I can talk through things. I'm just not a live guy. It's just not my bag. It's just not my. I like what I'm doing now. I have a studio. I sit across from you. I look in the white of your eyes and just ask you whatever the hell comes to mind. To me, that's my superpower. So whenever you kind of get away from what your superpower is, people pick up on that as well.
And James, what would you like to say on this?
No, I mean, I agree with it. When you look at Sammy, I really believe that he was just he's looking at the lives as a way to one, to continue to be, connect with his audience. And what I mean by that is that he didn't have any fresh content. He didn't have it. He wasn't working with James Carroll anymore. He did the thing with the Salvatore thing show or what anything. It didn't do well, and then and then he was trying to do. He released his paid website in February of last year or of this year, and that never really took off. I mean, he put a couple of things on there, and you remember he had the problem with Dominic Shikali because he put the interview onto a platform that had 100 subscribers instead of 500,000. So the thing is I think that he used that as a way, the lives as a way to generate some income because he didn't, he wasn't having any fresh content.
And really, that's super important. I'll tell you why. So, and Dom Sakali, whether you like him or not, you could have your opinion. I don't think he's a naive guy. I don't think he's a dumb guy in any sense.
No.
I think he went out there in good faith and said, hey, let me come on your show. And then what you typically do is say, hey, you know what? Hey, Lee, hey, James, you guys are flying out. I appreciate you coming on your own dime. I'm going to throw it in the firewall for 30 days just because I need to get my numbers up. But then I'm going to release most, if not all of it, on the other side of the firewall in 30 days. And that's what should have been done. In my opinion, I think Dom went out there in good faith, filmed the content, was told one thing and another happened. But all Sammy's people had to do, again, having a little bit of media savvy and say, hey, Dom, or Dom's people, and say, hey, this is going to be behind the firewall for a minute, but we're going to release it in 30 days. We'll have a whole campaign behind it, if you will. And that didn't happen. And there's not many bridges in this genre. There's really not, especially if you're him. There's not as many as you think. And now he's interviewing like wardens and that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, but to me, it's not going to move the needle.
Yeah, people don't want to see Sammy talk. They want to see Sammy doing the series he did the first 2 years. That's what they want to see. They really do. And I just like to say one other thing. We're not going to really get into Michael Franzese because I think Michael Franzese knows that he made a mistake getting involved and attacking back when people went after him. And he has his own thing. Michael Franzese is going to make money. He's a clever businessman. So, but he was exposed as an informant, even though he says he's not. Plain and simple. And but that's just Michael Franzese. I just think he's a decent guy that's got caught up in a bad situation because you have people, and then that battle that he had with Joey Marino, and we're going to get into that.
Lee, would you have him on? Lee, would you have him on your show?
Michael Franzese?
Yeah.
I'd have to really think about that. He'd be the only person I think about, informants that I would have on. I can honestly say that. But I'm going to talk about a couple other guys real quick. These guys tell tall tales, and it's been proven over and over again, and they've been getting called out a lot lately. And I'm going to show you Anthony Ruggiano. Okay. I think he's a nice guy, but he's still an informant. And after his father died and after John Gotti wasn't around, he did what he did. He became a rat. I'm sorry to use that word, but that's what it is. He denies being it. And I can't stand when these guys deny being it. Just admit what you are. And now this guy, the biggest fraud on here. Okay, he comes in and he's talking about what he's done in his life. And he's not getting any pushback. He takes advantage of a young kid, goes on to the young kid show. The young kid never questions him, and he's still on that show. And so you have these two guys come on here. And I know that you might have a relationship with Ruggiano. A lot of people do. But there was pushback on these guys. A lot of pushback lately. And then you have these shows like Netflix that use these guys that they were not even made men. They were outside the mob. Ruggiano's living off his father's name. And Sal Pelosi, I'm going to put something up that, 1 second, please. I want you to hear this. Okay. Okay, but basically, he got called out by, are you familiar, have you spoken to Colombo yet?
I have not. I interviewed Don Capria, who wrote the Colombo book with his brother. His brother passed. So I'm familiar with the story, the book, but I have not spoken to Chris Colombo, no.
Okay, because Chris Colombo has really attacked him hard. I mean, he just ripped him apart. Chris Colombo knows everybody that this guy's claiming to know. Chris Colombo was on the street at that time and says, I don't even remember this guy. Nobody that I know that he talks about remembers this guy.
Polisi or Ruggiano?
Polisi.
Okay.
And that's him. But let me put this part. Now here's what really happened. 1 second.
Stop polluting the minds of people. Tell them what you are. Sam, you don't miss the life. You miss killing people and taking their money. They got a blowjob. And leave my brother's names off the face, because anytime you want to be tough, Sammy, men are not made, they're born. Rats are not made, they're born. And you're a blowjob for opening your mouth about my brothers. They're dead. They can't defend themselves. What are you mad? Just go mad on them? What was your contribution to reality? Sally Ubats. Joe Colombo built camps for children, took care of people, built hospitals, gave Italians back pride. What did you do? You lie about the people you're putting up there. I know it for a fact because I was there. Not one of these people in this area even knew you existed. My advice to you people that watch these podcasts, be careful, because you're dealing with the devil. It mix lies with vague truths to rewrite history. It'll affect other generations. Sammy, keep my brothers off your mouth. You're a blowjob. Literally, and I know it. Where do you think I don't know the stories?
Very powerful for 1 minute short, ain't it?
That one probably did pretty well.
Yeah, and but it's very powerful what he's saying. He's saying that, where were you in the streets? Now you got people, and this is what the Joey Marino effect, I call it. Joey Marino is actually a guy that everybody knows in that life was a stand-up guy and never ratted and did plenty of prison time. And so now you got Chris Colombo coming out, another guy, no ratting in his history, did prison time, comes out. He's the second one to come out. Tom, is there going to be a third and fourth one?
Well, I mean, believe it or not, I'm just trying to think back, right? You kind of have Sakali, early 2000s. You got Gene in 15. You have what's his name? Panisi in 18.
No, I'm not talking about those guys.
What I'm saying is, oh well, let me. What I'm saying is,
I'm talking about upstanding guys. I don't even want to talk about those guys.
No. What I'm getting at is, I don't think there's two parts of the question. Answer. First, I don't think there's going to be like a new crop of informants starting new shows because
not informants, Tom. Not informants.
Okay. Are there going to be other people calling other people out? I do believe that, because what's going to happen is other people are going to see either Joey's success, or they're going to see, you guys doing well, and they're going to think, you know what, I want a little vanity, or I want my own show. So I do think that we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg on these people being called out. Now, I'm going to give my personal opinion. I like Adrian a lot. I think he's the reason why we know of Sal, at least in terms of this genre, not on the shows, is because of Adrian. Adrian works hard. He's a good host.
He's not good or bad, though, because I reached out to Adrian. Angel Gotti has sent messages to Adrian and told him that he's lying. And especially when he talks about John Gotti, and the kid ignored it. He just keeps on going on. I mean, that's a problem. Sure, he's a nice guy. I only wish him the best. But is it good to say that he's responsible for Sal Pelosi being here?
Well, no, because Sal was like the original. If you remember the making of the mob, it was.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a guy I'm talking about a guy right now that has a platform. I'm not talking about those shows. I'm talking about right now on YouTube. Adrian has given him a platform to spew his lies.
Well, I will say this: Adrian, good or bad, however you want to define it, is responsible for it. But the beauty about the internet and the beauty about the age we live in is, I think people are smart enough at this point to watch their show and then watch people challenging that show. And what I'm interested in is people having the options to say, you know what, I watch this guy. I don't know if I buy it. Somebody else brought up some credible information. So if they decided to say not support or walk away, I love the fact that there's opposition to these things, because it keeps everything honest, right? It's a counterbalance. I do think there was a while, and I'm guilty of it because I may have participated in as well, is there was kind of a rush of informants giving a lot of information, and there wasn't a natural counterbalance. I welcome a counterbalance. I welcome discourse. I welcome debate. I love that stuff. So now people become more informed, like consumers, if you will, and then people can make their own decisions,
Okay, James?
Yeah, I mean, that's what you need is, what we're looking for, what I'm looking for is just history being correct. And so that's what I'm fascinated with, is just the history of Cosa Nostra, what's happened. I don't want to have a filtered version of those events based on maybe what Sammy is saying, or what someone else. That's why I appreciate, regardless if someone's an informant or not, that's why I appreciate, for example, Mikey Scars, the way that he will approach it. He'll,
we're going to get into him. We're going to get into him,
Yeah.
James.
But
I
Lee,
appreciate that, though.
Yeah. But Lee, really quick too, and James, really quick, is the truth of the matter is, and again, and I don't know, like, you kind of can't really police these guys when you have a co-host, but the truth of the matter is, most of these guys, if they just really told their story and stuck to their opinions and told the truth, we talked about it on the show, 95% of this audience never been touched by the life, never experienced the life, never met anybody from the life, doesn't know anything about it. So they don't really care if somebody's an informant or not. So they don't really need to lie like they do if they are lying. And that's where, again, kind of a co-host, a producer, a publicist says, you know what, if you really didn't know John Gotti well, or if you really didn't go to the Raven Night, or you really didn't go to, the Bergen, you don't really need to lie about it. That's the funny part. It's egregious. So when you do lie about it, what do? You expose your brand. And you saw with some of these shows, they were like torpedoed by doing one or two wrong shows.
And this is what James and I will talk about. These guys have very interesting lives as it is.
Yeah.
Why are you lying? Why are you trying to be more? It's like Sammy Gravano. Oh my God, you were the underboss under John Gotti. Why are you lying all the time? Okay. And Anthony Ruggiano, you were in the streets. There's no doubt about that. Your father was the big thing. But why are you lying like you're doing every time there's a murder committed? You were involved in helping the person out that committed the murder. I mean, 3 of them I've heard in the last couple months. James?
Yeah, I mean, there's no need for that. I mean, you just need to you need integrity. You need to be honest about what you're saying. And, I think part of it too is that these guys only have so many stories. So like Ruggiano, for example, what stories does he have of himself? He really only has a little bit, but he can still speak about the thing of that era because he was in that era. But there's just no need for the embellishment and all that. I think now as you're getting more and more people that understand and research the history, and you have more and more people that come out like Mikey Scars and even Joey Marino and others, you're able to have that counterbalance. For so many years, the informants had they had nothing to, you really didn't have any competition. They could just say whatever they wanted without anyone exposing them on it.
And James, that's a great point because the person that really exposed them on there were 2 people. Of course, Joey Marino and Mikey Scars. And Mikey Scars is one of those people who's an informant. The difference between Mikey Scars and the other informants is that Mikey Scars, the name of his show is No Excuses, and he means it. But first, I'm going to put this short up right here. And this is Joey Marino. This is a very powerful 1 minute that he spoke. I think one of the best 1 minutes he's ever said.
But now, Joe, this neighborhood.
This is my neighborhood.
I mean, how great was it?
It's the Italian market. We're going to go outside and I'll show you the street. We walk down the street. This is my neighborhood where I grew up at. I could come back here. There's other people that you just can't come. Go to the Bronx and go see if you're welcome. Go give turkeys out. Everybody here loves us. The people love us. The kids love us. We help everybody. Right. We're not bad guys. Don't believe what these fucking idiots tell you.
Yeah.
But one thing for sure is they can't go back to their neighborhood. All you fucking lying rats, go back to Brooklyn, go back to New York, come back to Philly. You just can't go nowhere. Right. They don't want you.
They open us with open arms, especially.
They love us.
They love you.
They love us.
We're in the Fitzwater Cafe. Guy picks up the check this morning.
Yeah.
We've never seen him a day in our life.
Yeah. And we're working on it now, probably after the holidays. We're going to go to the Youth Study Center.
So basically, he just plain out called them out. You guys got big mouths. You guys are tough guys. Can you go back to your neighborhoods?
Yeah.
Tom?
I mean, the truth is, in most cases, they can't. And the truth is, I don't think Joey's wrong about that,
I don't know any of them that aren't. Someone said Jimmy is. No, not really. He's not running around. And Jimmy's already had people confront him, like in a couple places. It's dangerous if you go out. If we seen Gene Barillo in Howard Beach when a group of people chased Gene Barillo because of the fact that it was one of them was Ronnie Gialonzo's son, I believe. So you're putting your life in danger if you go mess around in areas where you put people away in prison.
There was and you got to forgive me, I should probably know the story a little better. There was a guy that went out to, I think it was oh man, it was like a hot spot in New York City, like Say Less, or one of those like trendy hot spots. And he was an informant, and he was having dinner, I guess, with a girlfriend or a friend or whatever. And there were a few guys there, and I think it was one guy was inducted, and other guys were other street guys, and they cracked him in the face with a bottle right there at the restaurant. So there is still some element of risk that you run by. You're kind of flouting it a little bit too. You know what I mean? Like, so again, is what I said earlier. If you kind of tell your story, give your opinions, not really like throw the people under the bus, there's still enough people willing to hear that without having that physical risk.
Very good point. James?
Yeah, I mean, that's, what you have to understand too is just because the mob doesn't, they say, oh, they don't kill anyone. Well, that's not 100% true. It could still happen, but the point is that people still get assaulted. People still get, things can happen. So I mean, you can't just, and I know that people, informants are, they won't go back. They're careful. They still look over their shoulder. That's just the reality of it. And so, yeah, I mean, that's just, Joey, I think that is a powerful point where Joey Marino is able to say, hey, I'm here in the neighborhood and I can walk around and no one does anything. So I think that is powerful.
And we're going to give you an idea about how Joey Merlino, how respected he is. He went after a mob legend. And personally, I disagree with Joey on this, but he still went after him. I'm going to play this. And this is what really got Michael Franzese to jump into the fray.
The young man was mistaken because he thought he was sending this to somebody with class. Obviously, that's not the case. Now, Joey took it upon himself to call me a rat, which is okay. I've heard all of that. I've explained there's nothing more to talk about that. Call me whatever you want in that regard. But then he went on to talk about my father. And what he said about my father is this. He said, for Sonny Franzese to associate with his son, because he said that I paid my father's bail, I picked him up when he came out of prison, that my father, Sonny Franzese, must be a rat also. Now let me tell you this, Mr. Merlino, you couldn't shine my father's shoes on his worst day. My father was one of the most stand-up guys ever in that life, and everybody knows it, even every one of your associates, and you know it also. So what you said was so totally out of line. And you know what? You would never in a million years say that to my father's face.
Okay, Tom, James, I'm guessing, and he's having some issues with his phone. His phone might be dying. Okay, so what I want to, so we know in this genre that probably the most respected guy up to the point that Joey said that was Sonny Franzese over everybody.
Yeah.
So were you surprised when he did that?
Yeah, I was a little surprised. In that particular case, I think it was a little far-reaching. And the truth of the matter is, I think, and I'd be interested to see, you kind of have the we push back and those kind of folks that are anti-informant. Like, I like to call balls and strikes, or try to do my best, right? So I kind of wish people would call balls and strikes on that. You can disagree with Joey and be like, hey, you know what? On this one, I disagree. I personally disagree with that statement. Sonny Franzese gave his life to that life. He, lost, I believe, one daughter to, I think addiction, I believe, another daughter to illness, a son who, turned informant, and, being an Italian father or any father, and putting, I think he put that life before his family, respectfully. And that's the oath you take. And it's dichotomous, but you got to respect the guy in a way who put an oath out there and stuck to it. But unfortunately, if you're, rely on that, him providing for you, or if that's your father, you kind of get that short end of that stick. But I do think I disagree with Joey on that point.
James?
Yeah, I mean, and we've talked about that as well, that, that part of it, disagree with. But yeah, I mean, it is obvious that Michael responded. People have attacked Michael and he doesn't respond. But yeah, I mean, that kind of going after his father was what did it.
Okay, and then I'm going to also talk about when I went out to see Sammy Gravano, a lot of people, including the people who call themselves rat haters, defended Sammy Gravano over me.
Right.
And which I find kind of, hypocritical, but it doesn't surprise me. The one person that defended me?
Who's that?
So who do you think the one person is that defended me the most?
Well, I think of two. I would think Joy or Angel.
Well, Joy and Angel did because they realized, but I'm going to put it up right now.
The Alan Kaiser thing seems to weigh heavy on Sammy with criticism because it was an innocent kid. So Lee Cole saying Lee Cole don't have balls to go out there, he just threw your whole argument out the window because he went out there to see a serial killer.
Okay. And so he came out and said that. And we found it funny, too, because when he came out and said it, originally it was done different. Someone backed him up and then pulled himself off the short. Mikey put himself, he did that. He didn't have to do that. But it seemed like I got more guys that were mobsters and former mobsters or that are, or they still get a hold of me, had my back.
Yeah.
But it was
that's exactly it.
That proves my point earlier. And I'm going to probably get some shit in the comments about this. This conversation about informants is more nuanced than black and white. Now, for some people, it's black and white, and I salute. I respect their opinion. My personal opinion, it's more nuanced because you got a guy like Mikey Scars, who probably put 1/3 of the Gambino family away, right? Probably was the most, I think, in terms of the government, the most profitable informant out there, right? But he's allowed. He's allowed to have his opinion, and in this particular case, he's supporting Lee, rightfully so. Which kind of brings my point to light that this is a nuanced conversation. It's not necessarily black and white.
And you know what? Why I wasn't being. People took their personal feelings from me and put it in the way of Sammy Gravano. It's like, okay, you said all these things about Sammy Gravano, how bad he is, and the first question I asked Sammy. We'll go there. Okay. And I'm doing this because this is like a year in review. And so the first question I asked Sammy, and this was done, and this is one of our most popular ones ever, but it's very short.
Hey, Sammy, how you doing? It's good to see you. Yeah, Lee Cole.
That might have been the single most important 60 seconds in this genre that has ever been produced, in my opinion.
Really?
And it was funny. James goes, the day that happened, I thought they grabbed my phone, but it flew over my head and went into the back seat. So I called James up, and James is on the other end, and James goes, "You lost the phone? You don't have the phone?" I'm like, damn.
Lee, I gotta hand it to you. I might hire you to be my publicist. You found a way to piss Sammy off to your benefit. You got Mikey Scars shouting you out. You got Joey Marino, which I called you right after. I fell off my chair when he shouted you out on his show. So you kind of found, again, a nuanced way to navigate that world. They got shout outs from some of the bigger shows out there. I think
you're absolutely right. And James and I have a weird relationship. James is more respected. considered smarter. He's my straight man, and I'm the bumbling idiot.
Wait, so he's a straight one. You're the not straight guy. I got it.
Yeah, it's like Abbott and Costello. You got your straight man. You got your clown. So I like being a clown, and I like when because James mellows me out. Most people, except the really mean people, the most people like James. Now, I've done a lot of things in here I shouldn't have done, so a lot of people will never forgive me for that and don't like me. I can handle that. I'm a big boy.
Like what, Lee? If you don't mind me asking, just what did you do that's so non-reversible?
First of all, getting in bed with John A. Light was very bad. It was very dirty. It was ugly. Not a nice man at all. Getting in bed with him, he was probably the worst thing that I've done. And anytime I brought informants onto my channel, it never benefited the channel, always hurt the channel, but I was kind of blind to it where I didn't see it because I listened to the little things in the back, the foolish people like Jeff Nadeau going, you need informants. And our numbers were built up naturally in this channel, not unnaturally like some other people. And it's been proven that they're wrong. They are wrong.
Yeah.
You don't need informants to have a successful channel on here. You don't. And that's how I feel about it. James, how do you feel? You're part of this show. How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I thought going into this a year ago that we needed to expand, have informants on. I felt that our viewership would demand it. I felt that the people that were anti-informant was a small percentage.
Yeah.
For me, I've not, I'm not in that life, and so I'm not, and I understand people have been hurt by informants. So I get all that, but I've never been the one 100% against all informants. But at the same time, I thought we needed to have informants on to build our subscribership, and that wasn't the case. We've done better. Basically when, a couple of things, Lee, going out to Arizona, that kind of did a kickstart, and then we sustained it and grew even more by, building the strategy around, a community page, being active, doing shorts, and also long form content.
Well, I want to go ahead, Lee. Sorry.
And that's the thing people don't realize. You have a lot of people out here. They want to see these pictures. We have a community page that we put up pictures. We get hundreds and hundreds of views. I put up polls and get thousands of people answering the polls.
Yeah.
That's what the mob fan wants to see. And 2023 has taught me that. And that's what we're going to do. There's 3 levels. And anybody that has a channel, please remember this. And Tom knows this already. There's 3 levels to your channel. You have 3 things that YouTube cares about. They care about you doing long forms. They really don't care for lives.
Oh.
They also like when you do the shorts. That's a big thing now. They want you doing shorts.
Yeah.
And people keep forgetting the community page is a very powerful tool if you have a channel. Use your community page every day. If you got to go, I farted, and write it down every day. Use it the right way, not for attacking. James?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Exactly. No, go ahead, Tom.
No, I was going to say, because what happened was, as usual, I was getting really attacked, and I wanted to say to myself, I said, okay, let me look at my total body of work, and then how much were informants and how much weren't, right? So literally, of my total ever production of content was about 5%, 15 out of whatever, not 5%, but 3, whatever it was, right? Lower percentage were informants, but made the most noise, right? But then I started looking at my non-informant content, right? So there's a lot of experts out there. You got James Bucciolato is a great resource who I had on. Antonio Nicasso out of Canada, who's probably the worldwide expert on Ndrangheta and Italian and Canadian organized crime, and very well versed in U.S. organized crime. Dr. Anna Sergi, who is the Ndrangheta queen, really knows. These are academics,
Right.
so you could learn a lot from them. I'm starting to do more family members. Pablo Escobar's wife. I mean, to have the person who slept next to him, retired adult life, and was with him through all of this, you can learn that way. You know what I mean? Salvarina, which is Tortorina's, wrote a book. Obviously, he's limited what to talk about. So, the truth of the matter is, for creators like ourselves and for the audience, I find it really much more interesting to hear about those people or from those people about the life than maybe even an informant per se.
James?
Yeah, I mean, and like what I enjoy is being able to have interviews with people, like you said, experts or academians, and they don't always do well, but I mean, I know we do a great job with it. Like, for example, Sandra Petty, doing those interviews with her. Those were, for me, those were my favorite. And also when we interviewed Matthew Maury, the lawyer, those are fascinating subjects for me, and not everyone enjoys it, but for me, as a person that loves research, getting the people on, like I'd love to get Anthony De Stefano on, but I've never been able to get him to agree, and so people like that, I think, are great to bring on.
Yeah, I had to. Real quick, I had Tony on, and he was one of my favorite interviews.
Yeah,
because I really enjoyed his book about the Lufthansa heist, and also his, I think, Messino book. So I was particularly interested in chatting with him. You got Mike Vecchione. I know some people.
Okay, let's stop the nerd stuff for a couple minutes, guys, because we got 9 minutes. So I'm going to get this stuff into the 9 minutes. I'm not trying to be rude, but
got it.
I don't want to go over an hour with this. So, and that's what you two guys are. You're mob nerds, which is not bad. And when we talk about mob nerds, James is a mob nerd. But what James and I have learned to do is turn it into entertainment. People like entertainment too. But okay, so I want to say we're going to talk about Mikey Scars now.
Okay.
Mikey Scars is an informant. Mikey Scars admits to being an informant. He has no problem with it. But I'm going to put something up here. And we'll play this. And this is from Mikey Scars' channel. Please go over there and subscribe.
Accepted what I did is wrong. You're not supposed to cooperate. That is clear. You're in that life, you take that oath. You don't cooperate. Again, this guy justifies everything he does as righteous, or John's fault, or somebody else's fault. So my position is, it's up to you to decide if I'm a hypocrite or not, and I'll accept what you say. But the difference between him and I is we both cooperated. Whatever the reasons that made me jump were wrong. He's still making the case every day it was somebody else's fault. And he's still a gangster. And he's still a murderer. And he still challenges people. Big difference between Sammy and I, in my mind. I'll leave the judgment up to everybody out there if we did see the difference between Gravano and myself, as opposed to what he owns up to and what I own up to. I have.
Okay, Tom, what do you think about what was just said there?
Yeah, he hit the nail on the head, because you guys remember the song Tina Turner, I don't care who's wrong or right, I don't want to fight no more. You remember that song?
I do. Yep. Yeah.
Okay, and the reason why I think of that song when Mikey said that is, again, I had the dubious distinction of interviewing many informants. With that said, though, is if you really listen to and unpack what each of them say, it's, I got screwed by this, I got screwed by that. Very rarely does somebody raise their hand and say, you know what, I just didn't want to do the time. I just didn't. I didn't have the constitution to do, you hear, I'll do the flat 20, but not the not the long stretch, right? Which I think 20 years would be a long stretch in my opinion. But my point being is, it is somewhat refreshing that there's somebody saying, "Hey, you know what? I did it and it was wrong, and it is what it is." Versus, and the reason why I brought up the Tina Turner song is, after a while, when you hear from the informant saying, "I got screwed, I got screwed, I got screwed," and maybe some cases individually, they may be right, but it gets drowned out by a cohort of people blaming other people for their decisions. Just own the decision and move on.
And to put 1 minute, and to put in about a 1 minute answer of this question I'm about to ask you, what would you say to people that said, Tom LaVecchia, how can you say this when the guy that you came on here and worked with was the biggest guy, maker of excuses of why he actually says he's not a rat. I mean, he literally is one of the guys that leads the forefront of saying, I'm not a rat. I had the right to do what I did. What would you say to those people that say that to you?
Well, in John's individual case, again, it's going to be my personal belief is, again, anybody who watches my show, I care about the business end of things, right? So in his particular case, I think there's two parts to unpack. The first is,
no, we only got a minute. You got to put it in a minute.
The short answer is, at least when I spoke with John, he did take some of personal accountability towards it. When we were on the show, he did kind of address it. We did our best to address it. Just my personal opinion, he does give reasons, right, why he did what he did. Whether you agree with that or not, that's up for the individual to decide.
Great answer. James, what do you think about that?
Well, I want to tell you one thing about Mikey Scars. The reason I respect what he's saying is that he comes from a long lineage of mafia, and so the thing is, or Cosa Nostra, and the thing is that he was brought up in diapers.
Yeah,
it was that life. And so that's all he knew. And then he made that decision to cooperate. And so that impact on him was definite. But you have Sammy Gravano, no one in his family was really in the mob. So that history, all of that lineage had nothing to do with it. And so, it was self-preservation for him. You see that with his career in the mob. But anyway, you see that how one person will not make an excuse for it and another person that does, and they were both wrong for cooperating. But at least one person's willing to have some accountability for it.
Yeah. But also real quick, and I know we're short on time, is, and James, this might be a good show for you to research.
Yeah.
Again, you kind of unpack, let's call it 12 different informants. I really only personally believe there's only 2 or 3 that had that pedigree and lineage, which was Mikey Scars. He wasn't made by Francesco Fiorellino. And there's only a few handful of guys that were true lineage back to Sicily or father, grandfather, uncle, brother, and that kind of stuff. So again, I'm sorry, but I'm not making an excuse here, but I look at the business end of things, and a lot of these guys that were first generation or they're first for the family to do it, they should have never gotten that far in their life. The organization should have said, there's risk by making this guy because he has nothing to lose. And I'm not just talking about one person. I'm talking about 10 people that whoever made them or whoever made them an associate, somebody's got to look at them and say, hey, you know what? This person he's not going to lose his brother. He's not going to lose his uncle. He's not going to lose weddings, funerals. And that's why you see Ndagara has 40 informants ever.
Right.
When there's a clan with the Ndagara, they're about 300 deep, and there's 150 of them.
Right.
They've been around since the 1800s, and there's only 40 of them. Why? You lose your societal standing. You lose your familial standing. You lose your financial. So my point being is, it's not just the informant's fault on this part. It's the fault of that organization by making or associating with the wrong people to begin with. That's just my.
I can understand that, Tom, but I'll stick with it's the informant's fault. If you decide to rat, it doesn't have nothing to do with lineage. It has nothing to do with anything. You're deciding to rat because you do not want to go to prison.
Let me ask you a question. I have a small business. I have one of my business. I have 5 employees. Right. I hired some really bad people who turned out to be bad. Right. It cost me a lot of money. I got to fire them. I had to get them severance, lost opportunity, lost training. That's my fault. That's my
but you can't compare hiring people to people ratting and putting people in prison. That's what it's a big difference there. I mean, like Frank Fiordolino testified against family members.
I don't believe so, but I don't know.
Well, people very close to him, people that he grew up with. Sammy Gravano killed people that he grew up with and testified against people that he called friends. I mean, these guys, they can make all the excuses they want, but the fact is that they testified against people that they loved, people they were close to, and they had no trouble putting them in prison when it came time for them to save themselves.
Well, then we could agree, and history and hindsight's 2020, that Sammy should have never been the underboss.
Yeah, he shouldn't have been the underboss. At the same time, I also agree. I'm a small business owner, and the thing is, as a leader, I'm going to accept responsibility for the people that I brought on. I mean, I think there has to be blame at that. Joe Messino, one of the biggest rats ever. He actually said people in the life now in leadership or bosses wouldn't even been made 20 years before. That's kind of what it is. So it goes both ways, but there is personal responsibility.
Yeah, I'm not saying you're immune from personal responsibility. I'm not double speaking, but what I'm saying is,
no, we know you're not. You just said no. We're just having a little bit discussion about it. We know you're not.
Absolutely. But what I'm saying is, and we could debate this probably all day long, but U.S. based Cosa Nostra really started to see the decline after the commission trial. Why?
Yes, without a doubt. And that's a different show.
Yeah.
Well, once we start on that, we'll be here for another half hour. Okay, so we got 2024 coming up, guys. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
And I want you guys in a quick 1 to 2 minute answer each. James, we'll start with you first.
Okay.
What do you predict is going to happen in 2024? And we can play back this next year. What is going to happen in 2024 in the mob genre?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I do think that John Gotti Jr. will get a podcast. I think that'll happen with Burner. I don't think it will necessarily be where he's interacting with the other shows or anything like that. But, I believe he'll be the next big one to come out there. I look for, the shows. I think you're going to see some of these shows, like Sammy. I think his growth will stagnate somewhat unless he will change what he's doing. As far as the other content makers, I believe that it's going to be very hard for newer people getting into the genre if you're not already an established name to be able to make your mark in a saturated market. I feel like we're very saturated. So that's kind of what I'm seeing. But I think you're going to also see that consumers of content, they're going to be selective. They're going to want to see interesting things that they haven't seen 100 times before. So I think it challenges us as content creators to stay on top of the content.
Yeah,
very well said. Okay, your turn, Tom.
Well, I'm a marketing guy, and the market will decide, and the cream's going to rise to the top. So you're going to see Francis grow even more mainstream. and he's going to start infiltrating other areas. He's now has a podcast with Chaz Palminteri. I actually interviewed a director, and we were just chatting about Michael, and first thing out of his mouth was, oh, he has a podcast with Chaz Palminteri. Nothing else. That's how we kind of knew him. My point being is you're going to have the smarter people pivot, and the cream's going to rise to the top. So those names are going to be Mike Francis. It's going to be RJ. Again, I'm a big proponent of having the media savvy partner. I think RJ and Michael are going to go to new heights, whether it be large amount on Patreon, whether they give some free content, however they do. I think Joey and Little Snop, I think they're the best show out there right now. Unfortunately, they're kind of a testament to how big this genre is, and I've been saying it all along. They're going to probably cap out around 100,000 subs. They're not going to get to 300, 400,000 subs, not because of lack or ability. It's just the market is not that big. And then
it's very hard to get that now.
The kind of rounded out is going to be Elite Cole and Proctor show. I think this time next year. The other part is, like to me, and everybody kind of gets, Panisi made your show. Panisi left me at 8,000 subs. I'm now at 42,000, right? Again, I'm learning that it's not about just informants. It's not just about the knuckle draggers per se, right? It's about giving good, engaging content that your audience gives a shit about. And I think you guys, this time next year, hopefully on my 49th birthday, damn, I'm getting old. Today's my 48th. I think you guys will be at 50, 60,000 subs this time next year. So I think the cream's going to rise to the top and the market's going to decide it.
And I'm going to finish off with my predictions, and then we'll call it a day, guys. Okay, here's my predictions. I predict that somebody is going to wind up getting arrested. Somebody highly in this genre is going to wind up getting arrested. Someone that has a show, because of the things that are said on here and the things that are done. I believe that something very bad legally is going to happen that's going to affect this genre dramatically. That's just my opinion. And right now, we do know that the feds do watch what's going on in here, and a lot of things are going on. We've already seen 2 cases of violence, and there's going to be there's a very good chance something very bad can happen here. And we're at that point now because you're dealing with very bad men. You're dealing with men that have killed people. You're dealing with men that are not afraid of people. And I learned this when I drove up on Sammy because of looking into his eyes and seeing that this guy isn't like us. Nothing like us. You could just see it in the eyes. And that's my main prediction is what's going to happen here. I hope our show grows. I hope that doesn't happen. But it's possible that something very bad is going to happen in this genre. And I hope I'm wrong. And do you guys can answer that question if you want. I mean, what I just said about something bad happening in this genre.
Well, yeah, I think it could.
Yeah, I think that that you brought a good point. There was 2 known incidents of violence. Could things happen unknown that we don't know about? And then number 2, that's a slippery slope. Now you're opening up a whole new ball of wax, if you will, ball of wax. I hope you're wrong. I do, but you're probably going to be right.
Okay, and James, do you? Yep. James already said. Okay, well, guys, first of all, let's all wish a happy birthday to the 48-year-old man.
Thank you.
Who's no longer young.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Tom. And James and we hope that this year brings us health, and we're going to try to put up the best product. If I drop dead, James will be taking over, and he'll be looking for a partner. So there's a chance that next year at this time you might see Tom. You might see Tom and James together.
There you go. the only thing is I just want to kind of just take some highlights from the show, and hopefully you'll use this as a hot clip or for a short. So number 1, Lee said he wasn't straight. Number 2, he said he got into bed with A-Light, right?
Oh God.
and number 3, maybe Lee might have a big announcement that he might want to share anytime soon. But I'm just going along the fact pattern here.
Yes,
and he looked into Sammy's eyes. So maybe there'll be another announcement we don't know about. But Lee, it's okay.
That's why I lost weight. That's why I lost weight. I want to be able to stay in the closet and not get too big and have to jump out of it. Okay. With that, guys, people, please, underneath here, we've been, I ran some stuff, and underneath here, you're going to see some links. Tom's down there already.
Thank you.
Tom's an official member of the links below Lee Cole and James Proctor show. We have them there all the time now, and that's the new theory. That's the new theory.
Podcast.
And besides that, James, thank you so much as always.
Yeah, thank you.
And James Proctor's illegitimate brother, thank you. With that, people, have a nice one.